President of the People's Republic of China, Your Excellency, President Paul Kagame, Chairperson of the African Union and President of Rwanda, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Honorable Heads of State and Government, Ministers, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, allow me to express our profound gratitude for the generous hospitality accorded to all of us since our arrival in the ancient city of Beijing. Africa and China enjoy a rich history, a history that is characterized by friendship, cooperation, and solidarity from times immemorial. We recall the historical visit of Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai to Africa in the 1960s, where he articulated the key principles underpinning our comprehensive strategic and cooperative partnership. He spoke of a relationship founded on equality, trust, mutual respect, and mutual benefit. Now, more than 50 years later, these principles remain at the center of cooperation between the continent of Africa and its people and China and its people. These are the principles that underpin the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. They inform our decisions, and indeed they guide our actions. Since its launch in the year 2000, FOCAC has grown both in extent and scope. It serves as an effective platform for South-South cooperation focused on the tangible improvement of the quality of lives of the people of Africa. In the values that it promotes, in the manner that it operates, and in the impact that it has on African countries, FOCAC refutes the view that a new colonialism is taking hold in Africa, as our detractors would have us believe. The progress that has been made over the last 18 years clearly demonstrates the tangible and lasting benefit of FOCAC to the people of Africa and indeed to the people of the People's Republic of China as well. The relationship that we have forged through FOCAC is premised on the fundamental and inalienable right of the African people to determine their own future. It is premised on the African Union's Agenda 2063, a vision that has been crafted in Africa and crafted by Africans themselves. It is a vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the international arena. It is a vision of a continent where commerce, trade, investment, skills, and knowledge move freely across the borders that were imposed on us by our colonial rulers. We are working to build an Africa that is defined by good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. It is an Africa we want, an Africa where the guns will have been silenced and where all its people live in peace and security. It is an Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values, and ethics. Importantly, it is an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the capability and the potential of its people. We look to China as a valuable, trusted, and committed partner in advancing Agenda 2063. It is in pursuit of this vision that we embrace China's Belt and Road Initiative. We are confident that this initiative, which effectively complements the work of FOCAC, will reduce the costs and increase the volume of trade between Africa and China. It will encourage the development of Africa's infrastructure, a critical requirement for meaningful regional and continental integration. Yesterday, our ministers of Foreign Affairs and Trade deliberated on the implementation of the Johannesburg Action Plan. We are greatly encouraged by their assessment that the 10 cooperation plans that were announced in 2015 have been fully implemented, for it shows a partnership that is hard at work to advance the interests of Africa and China. And in this regard, we applaud China for keeping to its promise. The China-Africa Industrialization Plan has driven industrial developments in many parts of the continent and has also contributed to economic transformation on our continent. The Agricultural Modernization Plan has promoted greater agricultural productivity, and the Infrastructure Plan has boosted African connectivity as well as integration. These plans have also contributed to environmental conservation, sustainable development, improved public health, and peace and security. Through FOCAC and other forums, China has worked to ensure that Africa's development is prominent on the international agenda. Building on these remarkable achievements, we welcome the announcement just a few seconds ago by President Xi of new FOCAC initiatives that will have a significant and lasting impact on peace and stability and sustainable development on the African continent. And President Xi, we thank you for these wonderful announcements that you have made. We appreciate the decision to provide new funding to African countries to the value of $60 billion. Let me repeat, $60 billion. In initiatives in areas such as industrial development, infrastructure, human resource development, healthcare, the green economy, and peace and security, amongst others. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, through this partnership, we are working together to advance growth and development on the African continent. We have observed with interest and admiration China's remarkable economic ascendance, making it the second largest economy and the third largest foreign investor. We applaud its achievements in social development, lifting millions of its people out of poverty and meeting almost all of the Millennium Developmental Goals. There are many valuable lessons that Africa can learn from China's impressive growth model and its approach to meeting the needs of its people. Significantly, China has used its substantial capacity as well as its resources as a catalyst for development in other markets. As a result, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation has become an essential platform to contribute to Africa's social and economic advancement. There has been rapid growth in Sino-Africa trade, with China now being Africa's largest trading partner. Much of what is exported from Africa are raw materials and primary products. Much of what is imported from China are finished goods. We export to China what we extract from the earth. China exports to us what it makes in its factories. This obviously limits the ability of African countries to extract full value for their abundant natural resources and to create work for its people. It is through platforms like FOCAC that we should work to balance the structure of trade between Africa and China. We are particularly pleased that President Xi and the government of the People's Republic of China is open to this and, in fact, encourage that trade between Africa and China should be balanced so that we have a win-win outcome that benefits both China and the countries of Africa, and we thank you for this. We welcome the fact that, in addition to trade, China has become a major investor in our continent. As we look to expand Chinese investment in Africa, we need to encourage more local partnerships between Chinese and African entrepreneurs. Through the transfer of knowledge and technology, such partnerships can contribute to the development and the sustainability of African businesses. They will be contributing to the expansion of Africa's productive capacity and the creation of new industries. It is important also that we promote investment-led trade between Africa and China and address the nature and quality of investment in Africa. We should seek inward investment that enables industrial development and the export of more value-added products. Developments on the African continent are further expanding the potential benefits of cooperation. We urge Chinese investors to take advantage of the great opportunities that will be created through the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area. It will establish a single market of more than 1 billion people with considerable economic potential. It will promote the industrialization of African economies and position the continent as a global competitor as well. Chinese companies that invest in Africa's productive capacity will be able to reap the benefits of a massive continental market. The economic value of FOCAC to both Africa and China is particularly important in the context of an increasingly uncertain global environment. Global economic volatility and heightened concerns about peace and stability render developing countries particularly vulnerable. There is a renewed threat to the rules-based multilateral global trading system, which, although imperfect, does provide stability, predictability, and a greater degree of fairness. We should be using platforms such as FOCAC to reaffirm our shared commitment to multilateralism, a fair and transparent system of international trade, and a global economic architecture that promotes the interests of the developing world. Africa is the next frontier growth market in the world. In the coming decades, it will create more opportunities, not only for its people, but also for economic partners such as China. China's investment in Africa, its strengthening trade ties, and its consistent support for Africa's development will benefit the people of Africa and the people of China well into the future. As we strengthen political and economic ties, we need to place greater emphasis on people-to-people cooperation right across our countries. We need, through such cooperation, to nurture and empower the youth of China as well as the young people of Africa. This is a forward-looking partnership concerned not only with the challenges of the present, but preparing for the opportunities of the future. We should be using FOCAC as an instrument for youth development to invest in building their capabilities and exposing them to the greater possibilities that the world has to offer. Our objectives extend beyond the peoples of China and Africa. Together, we are working to build a community of a shared future for all mankind. This requires leadership. It also requires vision as well as partnership. It requires dedication to building the capabilities of our peoples and a resolute commitment to the cause of development and progress. With the foundation we have built through FOCAC, with the relationships that we have established between our countries, our governments, our leaders, and our peoples, I am certain that we will succeed. I thank you.